Well, hey, everybody, welcome to Our Watch with Tim Thompson, trying to get good information to you, and we've got a very special guest to do that today. We have joining us today Kelly Schenkoske. She's got some incredible information for you. First, before we get into it, Kelly, would you share a little bit about yourself so our audience knows who you are?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. I am an education researcher. That began just out of necessity, trying to find out what was happening in my child's school back in October of 2016, when I first heard the phrase social emotional learning. And then that propelled me to research other topics and challenge what was occurring in the school district, join many other great parents and those like yourself who were going to the Department of Education in California to challenge the new sex education health framework. And I'm continuing on this effort, even though we homeschool, because it is going to impact our entire nation. And so what I do is I help parents, I help grandparents, I research and want to shed light on what's occurring and do everything we can to stand against this.
Well, we really appreciate all that you're doing. You've got for us today some information about what's going on in the government-ran school systems. We've looked at what's happened over the last 2-3 years. Many people have been very awakened to the fact that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is finding its way into pretty much every aspect of our lives. And now what you're telling us is that the CDC is now trying to control what's happening in schools and even dictate how schools are ran. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The new model that is really being phased in, so if you imagine a community being built, it would often occur in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, until it reaches the full intended fruition. This plan is called the whole school, whole community, whole child model, which is WSCC for short. And the effort is to actually combine education and health for equity. And what they mean is educational equity and health equity. These are loaded terms, and there's a lot of agenda and concerns behind this, but it was really first announced that in 2007, a group called the ASCD, formerly known as the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, which they themselves, as a global organization, have the foundational beliefs in both LGBTQIA+. They also partake in the concerns with critical pedagogy and critical race theory. And they also align very strongly with social emotional learning. So that organization joined with the Center for Disease Control in 2007 to adopt this new plan to bring community schools, or as they call them, healthy schools, to the country. And what they want to do is shape every school into a community school. It's a very loaded plan with a lot of initiatives along the way that are very alarming.
So we saw in the state of California 7 years ago, I think, we saw AB 329 was passed, the California Healthy Youth Act. And you hear the term healthy, and of course, who doesn't want that? I want my kids to be healthy. I want my grandkids to be healthy. They write it out in that term. Here you are saying that the CDC is trying to have these health equity. They want healthy schools. Talk to us about that term healthy and what they mean when they say healthy, because they're really redefining this term, aren't they?
Absolutely. Healthy is being expanded. So in our mindset, we might think this means nutrition, exercise, taking time to ensure that our body, that things are being treated, that need treatment, and those different labs that you take every year or check in with your doctor, those kinds of things. But no, what healthy is now meaning for these individuals who are changing and expanding the definition, and especially health equity, includes what they call gender affirming healthcare and much more. And so we have to really pull back and analyze, kind of step back and analyze exactly the language that they're using and understands that language, as many of these different politicians and activist organizations believe, is an ever evolving kind of definition. And so that's when it comes to health, our definition and their definition is completely different. They also mean reproductive health care. And they're not just promoting this for adults either. They're talking about young adolescents, even children, and parents being pushed to the sidelines. We're seeing an erosion of parental involvement and parental rights. And this new WSC model, as they pronounce the acronym WSCC, actually has the parent and family engagement always at the bottom of the list. That's intentional.
Yeah, one of the things we've seen, you and I both have seen this over the course of the last 7-8 years. Ever since the California Healthy Youth Act passed, we saw curriculum, we saw resources starting to refer to parents as barriers. It's a barrier to a child fulfilling its sexual desires and experiencing everything it wants to experience. And that's been another thing when we talk about language. We have to understand when you hear the term barrier, if you're a parent and you're looking through these things, if you see the term barrier, understand they're talking about you. If you're a loving grandparent, a loving parent, a loving guardian, and you got a child in the government-ran school systems, when they say barrier, that's you. And they're truly trying to fundamentally change the way families work. With this WSC model, CDC is creating environments on campus. Can you talk to us, like, in general, what does a WSC model campus look like? What are they doing there?
And I would encourage everybody who's able to listen and to look and investigate this for yourself. Type in an internet search of WSCC model, CDC, and you'll get to the Center for Disease Control website where they outline their plan, and they even have a virtual healthy school that you can enter into like a video game, an old video game, and interact with each classroom at various age levels. You can interact into their health center and their counseling services. It's very telling because what they want on every campus is a health clinic, and they want a dental clinic, and they want to obtain and maintain child's medical records. We're already seeing in the state of California where middle schoolers, young kids, can leave campus without their parents' consent or notice, and then they can go get services at Planned Parenthood. And that idea that medical records are now kept on campus, and we're also seeing already students and legislation being pushed so that students consent to vaccines on their own, separate from their parents. And right now, we've got Senate Bill 107, which would essentially make California a gender sanctuary for families in other states even to come here and get those services for their young teens, their youth. So when this is going on, I see two agendas aligning together. When a health clinic is on a school campus and it's the government that's involved, we have to be aware of that. So they want these health clinics, they want dental clinics. And when you interact with these different classrooms, it's really important to note what's there. So medical records is one of the things in the health clinic that you can actually click on, and it comes to the forefront of your computer screen, and then it discusses the medical records that are maintained at the school site. Then the counseling office is alarming because it's just in the little subtleties of the way that they marketed this. There's a diversity poster in the background on the wall that has different ladybugs in different colors. And that certainly has a meaning when we already know that diversity, equity, and inclusion have a significant meaning in our nation now, one of great concern. Then there's an easel that you can interact with what appears to be artwork. And it's a coloring of a family, but the father is scratched out. So these are things that marketing groups decided to place in this sample of what they want this school to look like. And these little subtleties are important to pick up because marketing is often very subtle, but it includes a message behind it. So I think that's also needing to be aware of. And just like you said with parents as a barrier, the California Teachers Association voted and it passed as a vote to begin advocating in 2019. They stated that cis students, which is their phrase for straight students, were already able to leave campus and get abortion and contraceptive services. So they used that as an example to say that now they want to advocate, this is again back in 2019, for students who are trans to be able to obtain what they call gender-affirming hormone therapy. That's a quote. And then another quote, without the barrier of parental permission. So that is exactly what you said, and this is the direction we're moving in.
Right, and there's a tie between the Parent Teachers Association, the California Teachers Association. Parents need to be aware that if they're raising money for PTA, essentially what they're doing is raising money for the CTA to come against us, because the Parent Teachers Association is in cahoots with the California Teachers Association. So parents need to exit away from that Parent Teachers Association. PTA is not on the parent side, even though it's called the Parent Teacher Association. It's all about supporting the CTA and their agenda for our kids. And when we look at that agenda, what experience have you had as you start bringing this to light? Are you seeing that people are starting to wake up, or is this something where there's still a lot of people with their heads in the sand?
When it comes to the WSCC model, there are still many people who have yet to hear about this, but it is important for Californians specifically because our state is where this is being adopted rapidly. Gavin Newsom and the state have already included right now, our budget is $3 billion, which is being provided over a period of years in grants to school districts implementing this plan. But Gavin Newsom just committed another $1.5 billion towards implementing these community schools. And this is a tremendous chunk of taxpayer dollars. But not only that, it's really important. One of the things that I created for a presentation just over a year ago was a triangle of SEL, CSE, and CRT. So that's social emotional learning, comprehensive sexuality education, and critical race theory, critical pedagogy. And so imagine if you were to have each of those subjects at a point of a triangle. Social emotional learning is marketed as educating the whole child, which is part of a whole child initiative ideology to escape from a sole focus on education to now going into and having every school go into a child's physical and psychosocial emotional health, as they refer to it as. So they believe that they're adopting a holistic model and that they're now getting away from solely educating, which is what education has been about, math, the social studies and history and English language arts, drama, all of these things, music. But they're really, in turn, they're now focusing on these other things, which will also mean our educational ability and knowledge will decrease because these kids are only at school so much time during the day. And we're already seeing actual educational content be watered down and these other programs be brought in. And the WSCC model is also marketed as whole school, whole community, whole child, just like SEL, social emotional learning. So in a sense, the triangle is the foundation. All of these subjects, SEL, CSE, and CRT, lots of acronyms there, they're all subjects that are integrated within one another. And then they all fit into this WSCC model because the foundation of the WSCC model is these core ideas, which are also woven into every single subject now. So this is a plan that has actually been going on prior to 2007, but it really took root in being a developed model then. And then 2013, these key leaders convened, and then they launched the WSCC model in 2014.
Yeah, it's and we've even seen over the last 2-3 years the amount of authority, control that we're given the CDC. It's just a ridiculous amount. What would you say, briefly, we have about a minute and a half left, what would you say is a solution? What can we do about this?
Well, I think one of the first things is what we're doing right now. We're shedding light on this. We're exposing it. Now's also a time to stand. That's, it's like Ephesians 6, having done all to stand. And right now, we're doing everything that we can to expose this and inform the public. And the next thing that we can do, I really think if you have the ability, it's a great time to get your kids out of the public school if that's possible, even if it means some kind of sacrifice. But if your kids need to stay in the public school, even if you take them out, my kids have been out for 3 years. We have to be speaking up. We have to be thinking about how we vote. We have to be letting and informing our legislators and our school board members, any that are willing to listen and reason with. We need to get this message out and clear because the media will not cover this.
Right. Well, I'm assuming many of my subscribers right now are going to want to find out how they can follow you, hear more, because you're continuing to do research, bringing things to light. How do they find out more from you?
Absolutely. My website is www.atimetostand.me. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter under A Time to Stand. And I'm on Twitter as @Kelly, SKE. I have a brand new Substack. It is substack.com/ it's atimetostand.substack.com. Sorry about that.
All right. Well, we'll put all of that in the comment section so that way people can subscribe, follow you. Appreciate all that you do. We're going to have you back on the program. We got some more to discuss with you. So thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us. And I want to thank everybody that's tuned in online. We're going to continue to bring good, solid information to you so that way you can be an informed citizen, voting properly, activated, doing all the things that the salt and the light does. You are the salt and the light if you are in Christ. If you are not in Christ, my recommendation, get yourself into a relationship with Jesus. So God bless you. We'll see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.